How am I even gonna film this thing? For years, laptop users have had to be stuck with only one display. And sure, you could take an external screen with you, but that's just so much extra screwing around. Well, that changes today. This behemoth is the Asus ROG Zephyrus DUO. And it is basically the multitasker's dream, with it having two displays on one laptop. But is this form factor even usable? And more importantly, is this laptop actually worth it? Well, let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, this may seem just like any other laptop. In fact, it basically just looks like a slightly bigger Zephyrus G16. And when you open it up, it still looks like a regular laptop. But once you remove the keyboard, it is a completely different beast. The inside looks, again, basically like a Zephyrus G16, but with its keyboard replaced by a second screen. These are two 16-inch Gorilla Glass panels, so they're pretty strong. But glass is still glass, and glass... You get a detachable keyboard included, which magnetically attaches to the bottom display, and now you've got a laptop. This package, all folded up, is thicker than a Zephyrus G16, but actually about the same thickness as a Strix G16, which is a regular gaming laptop. The full package does have some weight to it. I mean, I wouldn't try to one-hand this thing, because the outside of this laptop is fully made out of aluminum, so it feels very sturdy. Even the little stand that's attached here. The stand itself has hard plastic feet, but I wish they would have put a bit of rubber at the end here, because moving it around isn't super satisfying. The bottom part of the laptop does have rubber feet though, so you're not scratching that. All opened up, this is a pretty high device, but I actually quite like it. And believe it or not, it is a fully fledged gaming laptop. I have the top spec here, which comes with one of the new Intel processors and a damn RTX 5090. But this 5090 is pretty gimped. It only goes up to 150 watts. It does still have 24 gigabytes of VRAM though, which is very handy for creators. And with it being able to be propped up like this, I'm pretty sure it won't be temperature limited. That new Ultra 9 386H is also very power efficient, as we've seen in previous laptops, so it should be great. But this entire laptop only has a total system power of 150 watts. So I'm not sure if we're gonna see that 5090 at its full wattages. We'll have to see once we get to benchmarks. For its port selection, this thing is not a MacBook. It has basically everything you could ever need, minus an Ethernet port. Its power button is also on the side, for if you want to use your laptop naked without a keyboard. It comes with a 250 watt power brick, which is pretty manageable in size, but you could also use smaller chargers on the side, since it supports USB-C charging up to 100 watts. Let's take a look at its keyboard. Like I said, it's magnetically detachable from the bottom display. This unit is very lightweight and pretty thin. It's made of plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap or anything. It charges and connects through these magnetic pogo pins at the bottom, and it is connected well, so it doesn't move around at all while you're using it. And you can charge it separately with USB-C if you never connect it, or if you just want to use it for something completely different. But it's also connected through Bluetooth to the laptop, so you could use it anywhere you'd want to. And what is a super underrated function in my opinion is that this way you can use it off-axis, like on a desktop. Regular laptops have the keyboard very central, and that just gets a bit uncomfortable after a long while. But with this thing, you can get carpal tunnel however you want while playing Counter-Strike. The keyboard does have an RGB backlight, but only single zone, and it doesn't get super bright, but it's enough. It does have 4 macro keys at the top here as well, which is pretty handy. Now here's what the actual keys are like. To my surprise, this is a very comfortable keyboard to type on. It's got enough key travel, but it's still very clicky. And the keyboard deck has a sort of soft touch to it, so it feels nice to rest your hands on. Moving down, we have its trackpad. I'm pretty sure it's made of plastic. but it feels very sturdy, and you'd think it was made of glass. As for its clicks, again, it's surprisingly really good. It has a satisfying click and it's very large. It is connected with Bluetooth though, so you definitely do feel some slight input delay when you move your finger around. But the main star, or rather stars of the show here, are of course those two displays. It has dual 3K 120Hz OLED panels, and these things are simply impressive. There's a couple of ways you can orient these two. You can either use it as a regular laptop, or like a double vertical screen setup. I myself think this is really handy for editing videos. You can have Premiere Pro on the top screen and your video files and other stuff on the bottom. But since it has a stand at the back, you can actually also use these horizontally. So you've got these two big 16-inch vertical screens next to each other. This is probably your preferred choice if you do a lot of text-based stuff. I mean, you've got a lot of space to scroll. And I guess you could also use it in a tent mode with two people, but I honestly have no idea for what. Maybe for like playing Modern Warfare 2, so you can't peek at each other's screens. Now, believe it or not, having a display this high up while playing games is super comfortable. It's almost like you're sitting at a desktop PC. These two screens are both OLEDs, so you get equally beautiful color-accurate colors on both screens with perfect infinite blacks. They both get just as bright, and I mean really bright, up to 1100 nits, and they're both 120 Hz, which in my opinion is plenty, even for fast-paced games. I myself really appreciate that they made both displays a high refresh rate, so that scrolling between the two doesn't suddenly get choppy. However, only the main top display supports G-Sync. Not that many people would use the bottom display for gaming anyways. They do both have the same great anti-reflective layer, so even though these are glossy, sunlight and other reflections are hidden very well. And they're also both touchscreens, which adds a little to its overall usability. It's especially handy for quickly skipping all the spyware options in the Windows setup. Now this thing's hinge is actually quite good. The laptop itself is pretty heavy, so it doesn't really wobble around, even if you directly tap it. And you can still just use this thing with two hands, and it actually sits quite sturdy once you've got it all set up. Although I wouldn't try to open the hinge further up with one hand. Definitely be a little careful here. So these two displays are simply top tier. But what about its audio? Does this weird setup have good speakers? Well, they're pretty good. It has a front-firing speaker in its display bezel, as well as down-firing subwoofers on the bottom. It does sound pretty different depending on whether you have it sitting upright or like a normal laptop. But they definitely don't sound bad and get really loud. The webcam on the Zephyrus Duo is a little high up, but it's perfectly adequate with nice colors. The microphone is also pretty good quality, depending on how you have the laptop set up. But I know what you're all here for. You want to see how fast this thing is. Well, it does have the specs to be fast. I mean, an RTX 5090 and that new Intel chip are quite some guts. But with a total system power of only 150 watts, how do these two perform? Well, in Cinebench R23, that Ultra 9 386H is quite fast, but it's not a balls-to-the-wall gaming chip. For both single and multi-threaded workloads though, it'll do perfectly fine. And like I said, this thing is basically made to be a creator laptop. Editing videos on the Duo is awesome. Having a separate screen for Premiere Pro on the top and for files and a browser on the bottom, and the power to back that all up is just godlike. This is basically just my desktop setup, but in a single package, which I haven't seen any other laptop do yet. But when we get to GPU performance in 3D Mark TimeSpy, we see that that 5090 is definitely bottlenecked by its power limits. It for sure is a fast GPU, but not nearly as fast as other 5090 laptops. And it's not a good sign that this is already the case in just CPU and GPU benchmarks. Because once you actually start using both the CPU and GPU at the same time, they're gonna be fighting for that 150 watts. So let's see what happens when we do exactly that by playing some actual games.
Opa! What did you do, man? No!
So yes, the Zephyrus DUO can absolutely play games, but boy oh boy is it wattage limited. It could run every single game at 60 FPS or higher, even at its high native resolution of 1800p, and that is perfectly fine for a 120Hz display. But this RTX 5090 doesn't even come close to its power limit of 150 watts. And with it only using like 115 to 120 watts in most games, it does not perform like a 5090 laptop. At these wattages, it's actually not much faster than a laptop 5070 Ti. I have tried limiting its CPU to only 30 watts so that the GPU can use more of that total system power, but in Cyberpunk it got like 3 more FPS, so I wouldn't call that an improvement. Sure, it is still a 5090, so it does still have 24GB of VRAM, which is awesome for creators. And it is definitely not a slow laptop. It will still crush everything you throw at it. But for an RTX 5090, you are not getting 5090 performance. So why is this? Does it just get too hot to be able to handle those higher wattages for its GPU? Well, no, absolutely not. In this upright position, it gets a lot of airflow, so both the CPU and GPU actually run at very, very good temperatures, even in heavy games. But when we place that keyboard on it and use it like a normal laptop, that CPU does get warmer. But its GPU does not. It's still very far off from its thermal limits. So I have no clue why they limited this thing to a total system power of only 150 watts. I mean, it has so much thermal headroom and it could probably handle almost a full wattage 5090. My only guess would be that they're limiting it intentionally so that it doesn't get too hot in that normal laptop mode. But even then, the cooling system for both the CPU and GPU are separated, so that shouldn't be a problem. So bottom line, I just wish they gave this thing more power. I mean, whatever. Does it at least stay cool to the touch? Well, in the Duo mode, the keyboard isn't even attached, so you don't feel even a little bit of warmth. But when you have it on top of the laptop, it does get a little warm. Asus did put a graphite pad between its cooler and its display, but a little warmth does still get through to the keyboard. It's not uncomfortable at all though, so no worries there. But what about fan noise? Does it just stay so cool because it's not quiet at all? Well, again, it depends on the way you position it. It is actually surprisingly quiet for a gaming laptop, but it does get a little louder when you use it in its laptop mode. because when it's upright, its intake is not blocked by a table under it, so it doesn't need to work as hard to pull air in. But what about its battery life? Well, again, this thing has 2 displays, so it really depends on how you're using it. So I tested its battery life in 2 different scenarios, under light use with 1 display enabled and under light use with 2 displays used. In the 1-screen light use test, I played a YouTube video until its battery died, with its display at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with the dedicated GPU turned off. And it lasted more than 15 hours. As we've seen with other laptops with the same chip, it is very, very power efficient. In actual real-world use, this number is likely going to be a lot lower, but that's still pretty impressive. But this is a dual laptop display, so what happens when you enable both displays? Well, in the second test, I did the same thing with the same settings, but with both displays turned on. And battery life definitely takes a hit, but it still lasts longer than most laptops of last year. Again, real-world use is likely going to be a lot lower, but even 7 hours of battery life is more than enough for most people. But what about upgradeability? This is quite an unusual device format, so did they leave any space for modular components? Well, with this big-ass stand on the back, there's not many ways to actually open it up. But believe it or not, it actually has 2 doors here, which you can open very easily with a screwdriver. And under there are 2 M.2 SSD slots, so you do have space for upgradable storage.
Where were you the night of last night?
At least it is very cool to see the return of those little panels where you can upgrade stuff. But we all knew this was coming. How much does this thing cost? Well, let's put it this way. You either buy the Zephyrus DUO or a nice second-hand car. There is a cheaper version with an RTX 5070 Ti, and I would honestly recommend that one over this, since it will probably perform almost the same with these wattage limits. But 5,000 bucks is, for most people at least, still a lot to spend on a laptop. I will put some links for it in the description down below once it's out, for if you're interested in buying it. Alright, let's get to a conclusion here. Is the Zephyrus DUO worth it? Well, for 99% of people, probably not. This is simply a one-of-a-kind product, and it's catered towards a very specific niche. So for people that want to play games on the go with a second display for other stuff, or for creators that edit on one display with other stuff on the other, this is the perfect product. And initially, I didn't expect to really like it, but having a display this high up with an off-center keyboard wherever you want it is by far the most comfortable gaming experience I have ever had on a laptop. But is that worth 6,000 bucks? Probably not, but it is still really cool. I really wish they gave this thing more power though, because that 5090 absolutely could run at a higher wattage, but unfortunately it just doesn't. But guess what? If you want this kind of laptop with 2 displays, there is the ZenBook DUO, which is like half of its price, but is not a gaming laptop. So it's either that, this, or an external display. Look, either way, this is a really, really cool product. And if you've got a lot of money, you are gonna love it. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Aki, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Eric the Red, Ghost Data, Walter, Abdullah, Lewis, and Vice. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all... And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.